Trey? Do 5 first. All right, we're going to call the Ways and Means Committee meeting to order. We have what was one bill and is now 2 bills, HB 4EX and HB 5EX, to consider before the committee today. Both of these have gone through 2 subcommittee meetings, one yesterday afternoon, one this morning. And so now we're going to present these to the committee. I anticipate that there will be at least one last-minute amendment, which we don't usually like to do in full committee. But this is significant. I think it will enhance the value of the timber tax portion of the bill. And that amendment will be presented shortly. And but we need to go ahead and do that today because Rules meets at 2 o'clock, and we want to be able to present both of these bills to Rules. So we're going to start with HB 5EX, which is the jet fuel bill. And are you ready? Okay. Mr. Rhodes, present.
Thank y'all for letting me bring before you LC 431047S. That's changed quite a bit here in the last few hours. Do I have the wrong one now? Is that right? Is that right? Okay. It's 431047S. We ready? Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill seeks to ratify the governor's executive order that took place on July 30th of 2018 on the collection of state sales tax on jet fuel beginning August 1st of 2018. And what this bill does is it would extend this the suspension through June 30th of 2019. This is the same bill almost that we've heard in committee several times, with the exception of moving jet fuel into the category of motor fuel, which takes care of some concerns that the committee had. And I would just like to offer a few details about this and make a few comments. But this bill is not about one particular company. The question at hand is, does the elimination of jet fuel tax, is that a good move for the state of Georgia? And I think it absolutely is. Just to give you an example of something that we did recently, the elimination of sales tax on the energy for manufacturing. We saw those jobs go up by 13% in our state, and we think that we could have the same type of effect with this move. And Georgia's also at a competitive disadvantage. We rank 4th highest out of 21 states who have a major airport hub. And some of our biggest competitors, Texas and North Carolina, as you know, do not have tax on their jet fuel. And we're seeing our neighbors pick up quite a bit of our cargo business as far as the big shipments and things of that nature. So I ask that you keep that in mind. And one last comment is this exemption will benefit all the commercial airlines and benefit all 9 commercial airports in the state. And we just anticipate that we will see some reinvestment back into our state that will create quite a number of jobs. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for the author? Would you explain the one change that we made in subcommittee this morning, or would you want me to?
Mr. Chairman, since that was your move, I think you ought to do it.
there has been some sentiment expressed of concern about how this issue, the policy issue is fairly clear. Is this a competitiveness issue? Is this a fairness issue? But the thing that I've heard the most heartburn about is how this arose. And so in investigating the origins for the executive power to suspend the collection of taxes, we find that there are two different code sections. One deals with jet fuels and one deals with motor carrier or motor fuels. And they have different standards. One of them requires a declaration of emergency. One does not. One requires 2/3 vote of the legislature to ratify. One does not, only requires 50%. And so to develop some consistency and to make sure that in the event there's a future declaration that it's consistent with what we do with motor fuels, there is a portion of this bill that actually says that jet fuels are treated the same way as motor fuels, so that it requires a 2/3 ratification of the legislature, and it requires the emergency declaration. So that is one change that we've made so that there will not be any confusion in the future about how this comes about. And but other than that, the bill as originally introduced that deals with the exemption of sales tax on jet fuels and the original bill and this version of the bill both have a sunset of the end of this fiscal year. So we are only talking about ratifying what the governor did and continuing until June 30th of 2019. But if it's to continue past that point, it will require action of the legislature in the next general session that takes place in January. So are there any other questions before we call for the question? Yes, sir. All right, we got a motion to pass. Is there a second? A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It carries. It'll be in rules at 1 o'clock. I mean, 2 o'clock. All right, now talk to us about HB 4EX.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Make sure we're on the same page. LC 431048S. Is that correct? Okay. All right, let me get some. This bill is one of the two pronged approach that we're taking to help our timber farmers and foresters down in southwest Georgia who were devastated by Hurricane Michael. This is a $20 million timber tax credit that is to be used over 10 years, and it's been created to offset income taxes that's tied to reforestation in these devastated areas. Did I say? I'm sorry. 200 million. 200. I've got a lot going on in my head today. And this disaster area is been defined into a 28 county area. The zone is categorized into 3 different zones: low, medium, and high. Also, like to make note that timber in this bill is defined as trees grown for the primary purpose of commercial production of food or wood fiber products, and the definition also includes pecan trees. I want to make that perfectly clear. One of the key components to this bill that was added in subcommittee, thanks to Chairman Powell, is the bill prorates the approvals now, and it can't run out of money, and it lets all those that are affected participate. And if we were to have money left over in the end, we can come back and reopen it if necessary. That's pretty much the bill. I'll be glad to try to answer any questions.
Are there questions? What's the pleasure of the committee? All right, there's a motion and a second. Do pass. Are there any amendments? David? You don't, yeah, your own, and you don't have to make tell us what your amendment is. I've got the language from Legislative Council.
Mr. Chairman, we talked about it after the meeting, that it may be helpful for the farmers to be able to get a refundable credit in this case. In other words, to be able to get the actual cash instead of, or in lieu of, or instead of transferring the credit. So I wish to pursue an amendment that would allow a refundable credit back to the farmers so that they could get 100% of that credit.
Okay, there is a motion and a second. I will read the language that Legislative Council has prepared. So if you'll follow along with me, we're on LC 431048S. On line 2, at the end of that line, add for refundable. Line 4, delete to provide for transferability of such credits. Starting in line 95, it will read, the total amount of the tax credits allowed pursuant to this code section for a taxable year may exceed the taxpayer's income tax liability. Such tax credits allowed in excess of a taxpayer's income tax liability shall be refundable to such taxpayer, period. Line 102 through 130 would be deleted. Line 131, change the lowercase I to H. Delete transferring or selling. And in line 147, change the lowercase j to a lowercase I. And according to Legislative Council, that will accomplish what Chairman Knight said so succinctly in his amendment. There any questions or comments? Dale?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to apologize to the chairman. I had this idea while we were in subcommittee, but I wanted to talk to my good friend and colleague, the CPA, David Knight, about that. So he educated me on it, and I just think, you know, with the extensive damage that we've had in Southwest Georgia and the farmers there, it's just such a devastating event that if we could provide more flexibility in how they get that money back, I thought it was, you know, so I thank the committee and Chairman for making this change.
Any other questions or comments?
Clerical clarification. Did you delete 99, or was 99 pertinent, line 99 pertinent to the amendment? No, I didn't.
Well, considering the fact that I don't think it hurts for it still to be in there, just leave it. Any other questions or comments? All right, you've heard the amendment. You understand the amendment. Well, this is timber and pecans. That's ag. All right, we're going to call the question on the amendment. Yes, sir.
I had one question for the author on lines 93 and 94. I understand this process is going very quickly. I understand that, and it needs to get this help to this area. But But are the credits, do they have a carry forward for 10 years under the old version, and we're getting rid of that with the with the refundable language?
Yeah, I don't think that we're changing that part. I think it's surplusage at this point. Yeah,
I'm-
Legislative Council agrees.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. On the amendment, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? On LC 431048S as amended, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Passes on to rules, and we will have that version prepared for rules. And we are adjourned.